You're listening to Adam and the Analog, episode 53. Today we're talking about solo games and doing it all alone. Hello and welcome to Adam and the Analog, episode 53. I'm Corey, and here's where Harrison would normally say, I'm Harrison. But our topic this week is solo board gaming, and we've decided, in the interest of sticking to the theme and really driving it home, but also a little bit because of scheduling, we're going to record each side of this episode separately, and then mash them together into one semi-coherent conversation. Wish us luck. We start this episode as we often do, talking about what we've recently played. And though we record in solitude, we game together because this past week, Harrison and I have actually gotten together to play board games at the same table. Now, Harrison was kind enough to host, and we got to knock out a few of the games on our list. We endured plenty of damage to our ships in Galaxy Trucker, and also Lock Up, a role-player tale. Lock Up was sweet. I really enjoyed this one. Super interactive. I came into it not knowing much about it. The idea is each player has a bunch of tiles representing different minions in their gang, I guess. It takes place in this kind of fantasy prison. There's different locations in the prison representing different worker placement spots, such as the cell block, where you spend resources to buy items that are worth points. Or the sewers, where you gain green cubes. The infirmary, where you gain blue cubes. Basically, you're trying to gather resources and spend them on items and cards, which score points. But the trick here is that each worker in your gang has a different numerical value 1 through 5, which is its bidding value. You can place workers down in any one of the locations in the prison, but you only get to place in each location once per round. You can put more than one worker down, and you can put up to 2 workers down face down so that your opponents don't know the value that you're bidding for that location. Now, losing a bid doesn't mean you miss out entirely. In some cases, it's first place awards the most value, second place the second most value, so on and so forth. But some of them are really kind of clever. One, for example, pays 3 cubes to the person who gets first in that bid, and 1 cube to the person who gets last in that bid. In this case, if you fall in the middle of the pack, you do miss out. Now, as you can imagine, the tiebreaker is a big deal here. That is also the first player marker. Now, in a bidding game, going first is usually pretty bad, but having a tiebreaker is really good because there are going to be a lot of ties, especially when everyone has functionally a 0 chip in their possession. The biggest tension for me was when I knew what I needed to accomplish in one round, and I was trying to reserve the bidding power to do it. The question was always, how can I get extra value out of this round too? Like, I don't need those blue chips, but I might be able to sneak in a couple if I take some chances over here. And sometimes that pays off and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it almost sets you back a whole turn, or you have to pivot to take some other lower scoring item. The game is really colorful, the art is eye-popping, and the theme is unique and fun. I've played most of Stan's games at this point, and this one is by far my favorite. I should mention too that we played with the Breakout expansion, or the Breakout Mini expansion. This adds a board on the bottom of the main game board that is basically a points track. It represents escaping through the catacombs to get out of the prison. And there are tokens added to the bidding spots on the board that add a little extra incentive to go there. Only certain workers can activate them, and whoever wins the bid with those workers gets to move further through the catacombs. There's an additional deck called the Legends deck, where your last placed bidding token ends up face down on that stack, and the winning player in that bid also gets the effect of the card. I thought the expansion added enough to be interesting and didn't feel overwhelming, and even for us doing our first play of the game, I liked that we had it included. I did not feel like it was too much. But all in all, really enjoyed Lock Up. Looking forward to playing this one again. Thank you for teaching it, Harrison. Anyways, what have you been playing?
This week, I had a chance to try out Her Story, or Herstory. This is a card collection drafting game where you're writing a book about influential and famous women throughout history. And I don't know if you've seen this one, but the art on it is just fantastic. Each round, you're picking either to draft a card, buy a card, or collect the resources. to pay for them. And the resources are represented by these chips that have 2 or 3 different icons on them. And then each of the cards has a cost that you have to pay to write about it and put it in your book. And you get some bonus points for paying with exact change without like overpaying and wasting some resources. So there's a cool little puzzle there. I really enjoyed it. Super light, quick, and easy to teach, and just giant like wingspan level stack of cards with fantastic art. And then on the back of every single card is like a little mini biography for every single person, which is excellent. So definitely go check it out. It was a lot of fun.
Will do.
Well, since you're not here, I guess I'm just going to jump right into the topic.
Okay, Harrison, what's your first pick for favorite games to play solo?
So my first pick is A Gentle Rain from Incredible Dream. You know, this was one that you actually introduced me to. We've done a couple preview commentary things on the Incredible Dream products before, but A Gentle Rain really stuck with me. This is a tile laying game in which you are trying to lay out every single tile in the box and matching different flowers. And when you get 4 flowers that the edges of tiles that all match, then the middle one blooms and you place one of the bloom tiles. And your goal is to get out all these tiles or get out all the bloom tiles before you run out of tiles, and then you get a score based on that. Super gorgeous production, very zen-like experience. It even comes with a little booklet that says, "Hey, unplug, grab some tea, do something relaxing. Like this is for you. This is a relaxing experience." And so this was like a really cool reminder just to take a beat and breathe. And I think that there's a cool use for solo games to let you find a little bit of zen, kind of like a puzzle might. Bonus is that the game production is gorgeous, comes in this neat little box that is easily carried around. Games takes up a little more space than you can't like play it on a airplane or something by yourself, but it's very, very nice. I enjoyed it. That is A Gentle Rain from Incredible Dream.
Nice pick. I have to second that one. That came as a review copy a few months ago, and I was really shocked at how much I liked it. It is very subtle, but as you mentioned, being that it is a relaxation exercise and a puzzle, it has been just what the doctor ordered on many occasions, especially when I come home from work after a long day and I really want to play a board game, but I can't muster the energy to put together all of the pieces and remember how the Automa works and all of that. So really like this one too. Gentle Rain is great. Okay, for my first pick, I am going to call out Lost Ruins of Arnak for many reasons. This game is amazing on its own, and I've referred to it many times on the podcast for its multiplayer gameplay. It is a really cool efficiency puzzle and resource conversion, worker placement, deck building game with the most amazing art and incredible production there is. But on top of that, the solo Automa in the game is really simplistic, but still effective at blocking worker placement spaces, stealing cards up from underneath you, and racing you up the track. And it does it in a way that scales in difficulty. So if you want to just like crush this Automa, which I often do, I like playing games to win when I'm playing solo. I don't really care how hard it is. It's just enjoyable. There's a level to that, right? But then there's those solo gamers that really want to push it to the limit and say that they defeated the hardest difficulty Automa opponent. And you can do that. The way that that's handled in this game is there's cards that determine the actions for the Automa, and those workers are placed on the spaces. There are red cards that are the higher difficulty versions. The more you put into the deck, the Automa deck, the more you're going to see those powerful actions played by the opponent. Now, one cool thing about solo modes is that because they necessitate different rules, sometimes they introduce a new element to the game that adds a different layer of strategy. And with this one, I know Lost Ruins of Arnak sometimes is criticized as having a predictable Automa, but in this case, I think that's kind of a benefit in some ways too, because as you get familiar with the way that the cards appear out of the solo deck, you can kind of eliminate certain possibilities, and that adds another layer of strategy. Well, we've already seen the bot activate on this space, so they're not going to go back there again. So because of that, you might race to the spots that are most important early on, but then once another tile has been flipped, you know you don't have to rush over to those spots in subsequent rounds. And the importance of sequencing your moves in this game is so vital to the strategy that this makes a big difference. So I'll just take a step back for a second to say that I'm only talking about the base game right now, but the expansions add a whole new layer of awesomeness to the solo. There is a campaign designed for 1 to 2 players, so obviously that has a great solo experience. But there's also a free 4-chapter solo campaign online called The Search for Professor Koodle, and all you need to do to play that, aside from the base game, is some access to the web because it runs on a web app. So, highly recommend. Lots to explore here. That is The Lost Runes of Arnak from CGE Games.
All right, my second pick is Under Falling Skies. This is from CGE. This is based on a roll and write that actually came out during the pandemic and then was published. Under Falling Skies has you defending against invading aliens, almost like a Space Invader style. And the top half of the board has these little spaceships that are going to be advancing down towards your base, and then the bottom half of the board is actually your base, and you have to build it out, kind of like XCOM style sort of thing. And each round you're going to be rolling dice and then assigning those dice to work in the different rooms in your base, and that could be firing missiles to defend, expanding your base, generating resources, things like that. Very, very difficult puzzle. And then you have this advancing mothership that kind of puts a timer on the whole game. There's a little mini campaign in it as well that gives you an advancing series of missions to go on. I've not really made it past the first one because it's a little bit difficult, but it's a super cool experience. The first time I played this one was actually during a blackout in Madison here. All the power went out and there were tornado sirens, so I took the dog downstairs and lit some candles and then played this on the floor of the basement. It was a nice little time. Just enough light to see what was going on. So that is Under Falling Skies from CGE.
All right. My second pick is one of my top 5 games of all time, so that helps it a lot. But part of the reason for that is it is such a great solo experience. That is Dune Imperium. Dune Imperium is a game that when you play with less than 3 players, you have to add a bot anyway. And the bot is streamlined to the point where it uses an app to basically just tell you where to place the workers and what they get. And it's really easy to do. You might sense a theme here. I like playing solo games when I don't have to do a lot of work to operate the bot. I think a lot of people are in that boat. Especially when they're heavier games, your brain is already taxed with your own decisions. You don't want to have to worry about the decision tree for the bot. And in this case, even though there's a deck of cards in the box that you could play without a phone or out of phone app, simply hitting the button and seeing what happens makes it so easy to play. It almost feels like you're playing a video game. And that's to say nothing about the actual gameplay, which is great, right? I mean, this game is like high up in the top 100 for a reason. And because of that, I'm guessing that most people are familiar with it, so I won't go into depth. But I will say that it is a contemporary of Lost Runes of Arnak for the reason that it is a deck building worker placement game. But it is different enough that I have both of them in my collection, and I would encourage you to as well. They're both awesome for different reasons. I like Dune Imperium for its combat and its interaction between players in what is otherwise, a Euro game. Tends to be heads down. In this case, playing against a bot and doing combat against a bot doesn't really give you that same satisfaction of feeling like you're outsmarting someone else. But you can do something similar to Lost Runes of Arnak, where as you see cards flip up for the Automa, you can eliminate certain possibilities of those random combat bonuses that are going to get added and sort of hedge your bets a little bit when you're going in on a combat in a round. So there's something to be said there about that element of it, but overall the experience of Dune Imperium Solo is great, and I've enjoyed it on many, many occasions. So would recommend Dune Imperium.
All right, my third and final pick is Forage, a 9-card solitaire game from 2024 by Board Game Circus, Dexter Games. It's got a bunch of different publishers, but it was a web published like little thing originally. But I've got a printed version that I picked up from like a online trade. This is a super simple little card game where you are trying to feed or not feed the different critters on the on the forest floor, and you're doing it by overlapping these cards that are grouped into or sectioned off into three different terrain types. So they've got a little 2x3 grid on it, and when you play a card, you have to overlap the other cards to some degree. So you're building out this little area tableau, and then you're using dice to track how much food is present in each area, and then you're losing points if like critters or mice start stealing that food. Um, there's like an advanced variant that I haven't really gotten into, but the first time I really dug into this one, I was actually out on a terrace waiting for people to show up, and I had a beer by myself and was just sitting outside playing this simple card and dice game by myself, and it was a nice time. Um, Very satisfying components, and it has some custom dice in there too, so it looks really nice. So that is Forage, a 9-card solitaire game by Mark Tuck. And again, it's like a self-published thing, but there's a physical copy that you can find from different publishers.
Awesome. Well, Harrison, it's almost like you left Marvel Champions for me specifically because you know I love that game so much. But guess what? I'm not going to talk about it. Just kidding. My third pick is Marvel Champions. How can I not? I mean, it's the greatest solo game of all time. And I might be a little biased because of the Marvel love, but the gameplay of this is really pretty awesome. If you have any experience playing a head-to-head card game, such as like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or something like that, you get that excitement of building your deck and having some kind of personal expression in it in Marvel Champions too. On top of that, it is a very like confrontational kind of mono sort of environment. You load up a deck using a hero of your choice. You choose one of 4 aspects, which is a different color that you can kind of splash in different cards from that color. Each one plays differently. Some of them are more aggressive, some of them are more controlling, some of them are more defensive. And you do the same kind of modular build for your opponent too. When you build an enemy deck, you choose a villain set and then a certain number of modular encounter sets, which are, sets of 5, 6, 7 cards that all shuffle together to make the experience even more unique each time you do it. So having a sizable collection of this means that you can pretty much play a new encounter every time you set things up because there's just so many different cards to choose from. And on top of that, when you pair it against a different hero each time, the experience varies widely. Some of the villain design is really, really pretty clever. It's not just simple smashing back and forth, attack, attack, attack. The villains go into different modes and phases and sometimes have a sequence of villains that you have to fight through, like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And they're really pretty clever and shockingly thematic. For example, the Juggernaut is really fun to play against. He's one of those kind of smashy villains. He can really knock you on your butt real fast. But in order to fight him back, you have to do the same. It's just brawn versus brawn here. You got to knock the Juggernaut's helmet off to deal major damage to him. And when he has it on, he has access to more powerful attacks against you too. So that's just one example, but there's many, many of them, and there's even campaigns you can go through. We talked on a pretty recent episode about those. I'm not a huge fan of the campaign experience, but the amount of stuff it gives you to play the game, just, as a one-off, provides enough value for it to be worthwhile. Now, like most of these lifestyle-ish games go, this one has a pretty active community on the internet and forums and Reddit and things like that. And you see a lot of people posting lists of their favorite heroes to play and what they think are the most powerful heroes. There are some consensus bad ones, like Hulk isn't great, and I'll give you that. Valkyrie isn't great. But they're all fun, and because you can make the villain decks so modular, you can find a suitable matchup for any hero you want. You get to decide how difficult it's going to be. Now, as far as setup goes, you have to kind of dig through your collection to find different pieces and elements that the different decks call for. But as long as you're pretty organized with that, which I think most players tend to be drawn to doing anyway, you can get the game rolling in, 5-10 minutes after you decide to play it. So, one more time, that is Marvel Champions. Oh, from Fantasy Flight Games, of course. Boom. Harrison, let's recap.
My list is A Gentle Rain, Under Falling Skies, Forage.
Mine is Lost Ruins of Arnak, Dune Imperium, and of course, Marvel Champions.
That's a pretty good list, huh, Corey? Well, yeah, probably. All right, so as we reach the end of another episode, this is normally when we would ask each other what else we've been doing outside of playing all those cool board games by ourselves. But you're not here, so I'm just going to tell you what I've been up to. And I'm still playing Backpack Hero. So I know last week with our guest Adam Groff, we talked a little bit about Backpack Hero and the polyominoes and the RPG-ness of it. And oh boy, I went really deep and into that game. And well, I've beaten it now. As of today, I have finished it. I finished the main story, unlocked all the characters, and I've just got a few achievements to round out. And oh boy, was that super satisfying. The biggest crazy thing was that the characters play so differently from each other. It was absolutely crazy. I could not believe it. The basis is you collect these little like pieces that fit grid into your backpack, and then you can click them to use abilities in turn-based combat. But then the second character you unlock has a twist on that, and the third character is yet another twist, and then the fourth and fifth characters just play completely different. It's just it's not even close. They're almost a completely different game. But it still uses that grid system, which is kind of cool. So that's what I've been up to.
Nice. Yeah, so that was my recommendation from the last episode, and I've been up to your recommendation. And this wasn't one that made the cast because you hadn't played it yet, but you did mention it to me off the cast. That is Sunderfolk, which is a Steam game. It's very similar to Gloomhaven, I might add, and probably would have made a good addition to our list had we had some experience with it at the time. But I'm going to save most of this one for next week when you and I can talk about it, because I really need to share this with you. But I'll just mention now, since we're on the topic, this game is sweet. It's like a weird mix of Gloomhaven and Jackbox in that you play a campaign RPG style game by using your phone to control your character. And the controls are surprisingly effective. I mean, you are sliding your finger across your screen to show your character's movement intents and targeting intents. And you're basically leveling up by adding new, more powerful move and attack cards to your deck, similar to Gloomhaven. But unlike Gloomhaven, they're combined into a single card rather than the top and bottom system that it's known for. So it's really fun. It's really whimsical. I'll add that my favorite part of it so far is that randomly players in your party get the opportunity to name certain locations and characters in the game. And when you play with a whole bunch of college friends, there's a lot of like really nonsensical inside joke stuff that pops up, and it's kind of like the most hilarious thing ever. So the game isn't inherently funny, but it allows for some, personal improvisation stuff that's pretty fun. So again, bear with me if I bring this up again soon, because I definitely want to talk to you about this one, Harrison, but I'll just mention the name one more time. It is Sunderfolk, and it is available on Steam now.
All right, well, thanks everyone for listening. This has been another episode, and remember, drink water. Thanks for listening. What I'm going to do here is give you a bunch of like canned responses that you can maybe slot in and react to different things that I've said, and then maybe you'll have a good time with that.
Oh, Harrison, you're damn right I'm gonna have a good time with that.
Ha! Yeah.
Of the two of us, Harrison, I'm the better board gamer, right?
Yep, totally agree.
I mean, each time you play, you get closer and closer to matching my score, though, right?
No, that's maybe.
I mean, if my memory serves, you did beat me in Monopoly that one time.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like Wingspan, right?
Oh, no, I think you're thinking of Trouble.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like Spirit Island, right?
No, you're so confused. You're thinking of Settlers of Catan. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, yeah, that's kind of like Power Grid, plus a little bit of Yokohama.
Yup, exactly.
That is a good list.